Yes, so Hairless here. This is Brothers in Arms by the Dire Straits. I received a request for a cover version of this song, and that will be my next video, but I don't know the original song. Usually I'd listen to the original song ahead of the cover version I'm making a video on, but I kind of want to start doing reactions to the originals as well if I don't know them. The Dire Straits, they're a big name. A couple of very famous songs, maybe more, but I'm not too familiar with them, to be honest. The most famous one is probably Sultans of Swing. I feel like that's an absolute classic. I gave this a quick Google. Written in 1982, at the time of the Falklands War. Here are the lyrics on screen for anyone who doesn't know this song. Quite self-explanatory, quite powerful. A song about the hell that is war. Potentially quite a sad one. So without further ado, I think let's get straight into it.
These mist-covered mountains are home now for me, but my home is the lowlands, and always will be. Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms, and you'll no longer burn to be brothers in arms. Through these fields of destruction.
Man, there's something about these constant sustained chords that are playing underneath, changing so naturally and subtly, and then the occasional guitar motif. Like, there's not enough happiness to play more, a longer guitar solo. It's quite fragmented, isn't it? We've just got the beat coming in, it sounds like. So I'm going to do a pause here. Pauses do help with copyright, reduces the risk of the video getting blocked. And this is where we go over and analyze what we've heard so far. So if you don't want to hear my thoughts or analysis, go to the timestamp. So to take it back to the beginning, we have this sustained chord, G sharp minor. And the bass part is very interesting. The bass part is usually what I call the harmonic rock or the harmonic foundation underneath everything else. It's often indicative of the chord changes or the harmonic progressions that we might be hearing. Here though, the bass is going, which is interesting because in our G sharp minor chord, that second note, the E, if we move it up, clashes directly. A nice call and response that we hear in the guitar. And in the background as well, there's this like thunder noises, you know, very dark, dreary undertones, quite condemning. The video as well, a pendulum swinging, we can kind of hear like a tick-tock of a clock in the background, almost like counting down the seconds of soldiers' inevitable death in war, or soldiers bringing about someone else's death, the people they're fighting against. Yeah, interesting, definitely makes you think. I was surprised though, because it suddenly becomes peaceful. And there was a nice dissonance there, which is note number 2, because this is note number 1. Note number 2 is called the supertonic. Everything comes off and then, yeah, this peaceful moment. Mist-covered mountains are home now for me. The rhythms, especially of the start of that phrase.
These mist-covered mountains.
The rhythms are off, the music is not exact, the vocals and the instrumentation are not at the same time. In fact, it's super, super obvious that they are not. It's not like a tiny bit. It has this raw feel to it, a very organic feel.
Are a home now for me.
An unpolished feel, which I think is more relatable to most people than music that is kind of technically perfect. Peaceful is just the word that comes to mind, that soft tone of his voice. There's of course that very synthetic sounding line. It sounds kind of like a bagpipe. I imagine it's played on the synth. And yeah, these sustained chords in the organ. The organ chords, they bring with them a sense of closure, I feel.
Are a home now for me.
Which is pertinent considering the song's subject matter, I feel. You know, many lives reaching their close, their end. Just there though, that's kind of why. We hear this. That's called a cadential 6/4. Cadential meaning cadence, the end of a phrase or a section. Again, idea of closure coming at the end. It's a very recognizable device in music. And the 6/4 is because what they've done is this note here, the B, is in both of the chords. So you take that shared note, put it at the bottom, and it doesn't move. And then notes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. That's why it's called cadential 6/4. Then both move down 1. What we're really hearing is this. Into the next line.
But my home is the lowlands.
There's one line in there that really sticks out to me.
But my home is the lowlands.
And the vocal melody drops as well. Lowlands. Very fitting to the lyrics, whether intentional or not. And we have some new chords heard for the first time. And I feel the chord changes, especially with the sustained chords that we're always hearing, they are very natural sounding.
Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms.
Ah, you'll return to your valleys and your farms. That's what many of us, I imagine, envisage as a very, very peaceful setting. Expansive land and grass and nature. The music, the broken voice, he sings it so well. The sustained organ chords again. It's almost like a hymn in remembrance of those who've lost their lives or those who are going to lose their lives. It's quite moving. It is.
Valleys and your farms.
Another suspension.
No longer burn to be.
Right. Yeah, I thought I heard that the first time on the word burn.
And you'll no longer burn to.
Burn, if we consider the context, is a very kind of harsh and brutal word. It doesn't have any positive connotations, let's just put it that way. So it's fitting that on this word we get this harsh clash. We're hearing both a major and minor chord playing at the same time, which sounds like this. Now we are expecting the minor chord. That's the very first chord in the song, it's the root of the song. So it's funny that the one time that they put in just temporarily the major version is on such a kind of negative word, and even more so because it creates this sound. Really sticks out, but it's kind of like a blink and you miss it moment. And like I mentioned when we paused, this suspended supertonic note number 2, so here's one, and then this one.
Through these fields of.
And it then moves up. And as we just saw, that is the note that makes the chord minor, the minor third. So by having this suspension that causes dissonance and then resolves by moving to the minor third, I feel it just exaggerates the fact that we have a minor chord. Minor chords sound a lot more solemn than major chords do. All right, let's carry on. We got to the point where the beat looked to be coming in. Let's see if that changes the mood at all.
through these fields of destruction. Baptisms of fire. I've witnessed your suffering as the battle raged high. And though it hurt me so bad, in the fear and alarm, you did not desert me, my brothers in arms. There's so many different worlds, so many.
Well, I was really feeling like it was growing, and then it just suddenly kind of cut out. Again, this cadential feel in the bass part there, coming in a cello, it sounds like. Or the idea of a low stringed instrument. Well, we have the beat now. It's a very relaxed beat. It adds a bit of rhythmic substance to the sound.
Through these fields of destruction, baptisms of fire.
Slightly more regimented, a bit less of an idea of tempo rubato, literally meaning in robbed time, where you're kind of a lot more free to slow down a bit or speed up as you want, but still very, very chilled. The video as well, very cool, isn't it?
I've witnessed your suffering.
It reminds me of Take On Me. When was that released? 1985. That's the same release year as Brothers in Arms, apparently. Maybe this style of video was fashionable at the time, was one based on the other. Right, anyway, so we have the beat, we have a bit of a heavier bass now as well, playing more sustained notes, acting as that harmonic foundation I was talking about earlier.
I've witnessed your suffering.
But there it does move a bit, making sure to execute this descent downwards and then back to these more sustained notes.
As the battle,
That descending line we hear there.
I've witnessed your suffering.
We seem to hear that quite a bit in this song, in various instruments with varying kind of importance in terms of the texture, how obvious they are to hear. It's simple but effective. For example, here, listen out to for this line. Very, very subtle, and that leads so naturally into a suspension. This time it's a 4/3 suspension, because if this is note number 1, so this is the chord, and the suspension is where a note suspends itself. So we have this 4th note here suspending itself, causing tension through dissonance, and then it resolves down to the 3rd note. Suspensions, they're a great way to add some tension into the music, because they want to resolve into this purer sounding chord, rather than dissonance. And I think they also sound quite natural and quite nice. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's not just pure simple harmony, but it's also a bit non-standard. It adds a bit of something. The Dire Straits are using suspensions in this song quite a lot, and to great effect, I think anyway, even though they do kind of seem to be in the quieter parts, so they're not that obvious. Well, I say that, there was actually a really obvious one. Let me find it. Oh yeah, just ahead of that. But the vocals come in mid-suspension, almost to mask it in a way. Yeah, it's really quite a nice song, especially with the video. I wasn't alive for the Falklands War, but I have heard about it, read about it, seen photos. I'm sure it wasn't nice and it affected many people. But this song, I'm sure, has a wider message about war in general. The atrocity of the 2 world wars, the Korean War, Vietnam, Gulf War, all the others, and what's going on today. You know, fingers crossed things don't get worse. Definitely a song that makes you think about things. All right, well, let's carry on from where we got to.
So many different songs, and we have just one world. but we live in different ones.
That was cool.
Now the sun's gone to hell.
Those sections, they always grab me by surprise. Everything comes down before starting the next verse. The rasp in his voice there on the sun.
Now the sun's gone to hell.
Such a raw sound. I like it. Don't know about you, but a bit earlier on, I was feeling like I can really feel the growth of the sound now. Volume increasing, the sound seems to be thickening overall. But I don't think it is. It's just a cool effect somehow. And what I was saying about the guitar as well at the start, about how I was saying it doesn't seem to have enough power or energy to be able to play a long phrase. It's like now it's found some hope or something from somewhere to be able to play a long phrase. Now I see why they included these kind of fragmented guitar parts at the beginning, to really contribute to this idea of growth. That's just one way. The guitar stops and then the falling idea returns, that stepwise that I spoke about before.
Let me bid you farewell. Every man has to die, but it's written in the starlight, in every line in your palm. We're fools to make war on our brothers in arms.
Very cool video that, isn't it? And then we get some colour for the sunset, I guess, at the end. Yeah, overall, quite a nice song. And it's simple, which I like. I'll probably come back to that in a second. I just have a few more points to make before wrapping up. We got what sounds like an accordion coming in. A new sound. Actually, that does kind of sound like the instrument I said was a bit like a bagpipe at the beginning.
These mist-covered mountains.
But the accordion is known for always playing harmonies rather than just single notes. I liked the organ part as well. Its role has just been these sustained chords, but now towards the end, a bit more free, a bit more embellished.
In every line in your palm.
A little riff here and there, like a rock organ riff. It's playing higher up as well. Often growth is associated with moving up in pitch, and the chords seem a bit larger. I really like the next line.
We're fools to make war on our brothers in arms.
Not only the sentiment of the lyrics, but the rhythms too. They're adopting the idea of thinking in terms of threes rather than just 2 or 4, which is standard time.
We're fools to make war on our brothers.
So essentially we can think of it like 3 of these beats occupy the space of 2 of the previous beats. Bum, bum, bum. Not exactly like that, as the notes he's singing aren't equal rhythms, but it's the general premise of what we're hearing there. And because it's a change, it grabs our attention. Naturally, we are now a bit more focused, paying attention to these particular lyrics. And to really round up the idea of growth, right at the end, we see all these gravestones, the guitar playing on top, and then the sound becomes a bit more cacophonous. You know, there are a lot more sustained notes spilling over after the chord changes, so they clash with the new chord, causes more dissonance, a harsher sound underneath this guitar solo, and coupled with the imagery as well. Now it's almost like the guitar is the heaven. Everything's all light and shining. Yeah, I like the guitar solos in this. They're not too crazy. They're not showing off. And this way they don't detract from the message of the song overall. And I think that applies to the song in general. Fairly simple overall for obvious reasons. Well, there we go. Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms. This video, nearly 200 million views. Whilst I know a couple of songs by the Dire Straits, I really don't know that many. So always nice to discover this one. I'm sure it's a very famous one. Please go easy on me for not knowing this already. Quite a nice song, quite simple musically, one whose message I think is definitely the main takeaway there. Very cool video as well. Well, I think let's leave that one there. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support me, you can do so by joining the Patreon or the YouTube membership on the screen or linked below, or also buy me a coffee. And I will see you next time.